everybody, I'm Danny Otto. Welcome into an all-new episode of That Recap Show. Now, before we get into the episode, just wanted to issue major spoiler alert. We are going to be going over everything that happened in episode 1 of season 2 of the Loki series. So if you haven't seen that episode yet, you may want to pause this video, head over to Disney Plus, watch that episode, and then come back and enjoy the breakdown. Now, with that out of the way, let's start the show.
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.
All right, joining with me to break down everything from season 2, episode 1 of the Loki series, it's Johnny Rico.
Hello.
Hello.
How we doing?
We're doing, you know what? We're doing good because not only did we wrap a really good, Ahsoka season 1, but now we're getting right into Loki season 2, which I loved all of season 1 of Loki. So I was cautiously optimistic about going into season 2 and hoping that we were going to bring that same energy and just bring, the feel of season 1 into season 2 and still have these characters that we like. And you know what? After the first episode, I was pleasantly surprised. Like I was really happy in what we got. Like just I like the tone of the first episode and the beginning of the season. It's we instantly get thrown into exactly where everything is happening, basically the chaos that season 1 ended with, but we're still balancing out with kind of just like every once in a while we get humor, which I really enjoy and which I really liked having just kind of that small element of that in season 1, like where we had just kind of little goofy parts every once in a while. And yeah, I mean, I'm really happy with what we got from episode 1 so far. I'm hoping that energy continues through the entire season. But yeah, so far so good. I have missed all of these characters and I have missed all of the interactions, and I am, I'm super happy with what we got in episode 1. But Rico, what were some of your instant reactions from the premiere episode of season 2?
I thought this was a pretty solid opening episode for the second season. Like you said, picks up right where season 1 left off, which I think is a good way to go about it. And it wastes no time kind of getting to like what the main story is going to be about. Like this kind of like what is the fallout, basically of what happened after Sylvie killed He Remains and kicked Loki through the time door. But we get the immediate answer to that like right away. There's some really cool stuff in this episode I had a lot of fun with. One of the main things I enjoyed the most was the that like war room scene with everyone, where you had B-15 arguing with Gamble and Docs, I think was their name, was the name of the two characters. Very cool interaction between all three of them, and some I just kind of like the way that they're presenting like these discussions in a really fun way. And also credit to like the set design and everything. The way this is one of the like more better filmed shows I think of the Marvel TV shows. It just feels like it's like a higher notch caliber television than the other TV shows, I feel like. And I think it's just that was a really solid start.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, there are so many really cool things. Like you could just kind of watch the whole thing and just kind of look at all the set design and look at what they actually put into, making it feel like this is a real place type of thing. This isn't just like a room that, doesn't have anything crazy on the walls or anything like that. These are full sets built out as if, just like you said, movie caliber, everything, props, everything is there to make this feel as a real place, basically, which is awesome. And the dedication of that. And yeah, I what I really enjoy is that we didn't get that lapse of like, oh, let's catch you up. Like we jumped them forward or anything like that. We are starting off right where it ended. And right where we want to be, basically, is because we were left at such a cliffhanger and we didn't know. And, before I get too far, you want to get to some big takeaways?
Let's do it.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to kick us off with big takeaways. The only reason I stopped myself is because I was getting into my big takeaway. And I didn't want to talk over my big takeaway and then go, oh, big takeaways. Oh, I already said it. Anyway, so my big takeaway is maybe it has been just because, we've gone so long since season 1 ended. But I have to just say, I am so happy to just have the Loki and Mobius back and forth again.
And she kicked me through a time door. Well, I'd ask who won, but
Like that was some of my favorite parts of season 1 and everything. After we got past the initial meeting of them, but you saw like their relationship really grow to where it is like that buddy cop, almost like buddy detective, I guess, kind of format type of thing. And I was really worried. I was kind of, when we saw like the way, number one, the way that season 1 ended, and also in some of the trailers, I was kind of worried that either Loki was going to be on a different branch timeline, or he was going to be somewhere where he was going to have to kind of like make that connection again with a Mobius that didn't know who he was. So we did get that for a split second. And now that we found out he was, jumping back and forth through time. So we found out it was the same Mobius, but it was a Mobius in the past before he ever met this variant of Loki. So of course he didn't know that Loki over another variant of Loki. But I'm really happy that like within, 5-10 minutes of the episode, we get back into the time period where Mobius knows Loki, and we can get right back into that, that buddy detective, buddy cop kind of vibe between the two of them, because that's, it's like the heart of the show is kind of like their chemistry and their interaction type of thing.
Bromance.
Exactly. And I really enjoy that. But there's also all of these other little tiny nods of really funny stuff, like when we have one of the other hunters holding up the magazine with the jet skis in it and stuff like that to Mobius.
Oh yeah, X5,
yeah, we had that. Like there's a bunch of just like really like funny little aside things that are there just for like a chuckle here and there. And I just really appreciate that when you can put that in and it doesn't feel like it's there for no reason. It actually feels like that scene actually felt like he was, realistically mocking Mobius, and it worked. Like,
yeah, he was. Yeah,
exactly. But it wasn't just shoehorned in there. Like, it wasn't like they put something else in, like, hey, remember that, like, type of thing. It's just cool to have like a show that's building on these characters that have already kind of been fleshed out during the first season type of thing. And it's just nice to have, now we can have this slow build towards the main storyline of season 2. But before I get too far ahead of myself, because there's plenty of stuff still to talk about from this episode. But Rico, what were some of your takeaways?
Yeah, so I really going back to the Loki and Mobius stuff, I do love getting to see those two getting kind of go off each other and banter again. Some of the great stuff is like when they're talking about Loki's time slipping and how it looks and all that, and goes first like, no, it's fine. Then they're in the elevator. He goes, no, I can't hold it anymore. It's really awful looking. And the show does a really good thing with humor where it could seem like it's just them in the elevator, and then you pan over to the right and just other girl is just like really mortified, like, okay, what's going on here? So I really love the way they play off each other's humor like that. And then later on, of course, after he's being told about the plan, how his skin could get peeled off and stuff, he's just kind of sitting there digesting all the information. He's pretty quiet for a while, and then all of a sudden they're in that room and he's just kind of like in a bummer mood. He's writing the skin on the computer. Like he's just he's like, I'm just okay. He's just basically accepting his fate. And I was just like, yeah, Owen is definitely like the comedic relief of the show, but in the best way possible. He's also like the comedic heart, I would say. But yeah, he very good stuff between those two. And yeah, so that also kind of leads me into my takeaway, which is of course Kehi Kwan's introduction as Ouroboros, or OB as they call him.
what other guys? It's just OB. It's just OB. Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, he just kind of brings that great short round energy back into the MCU. Of course, being the only man in was it Repair and Advancements, or it's called, and and he's been there by himself for hundreds of years, thousands of years. And but the one thing I really loved about this scene is when Loki time slips to the past and meets the younger Ki Kwan. It's really just the same guy. He's just been there forever, right? But the way that they're able to have him drop information to past OB and then current OB is like, okay, no, I remember it now. Now I remember this, and then boom. It's a really fun way of them playing with time travel. We've seen it in a few movies before, but It's a really kind of a cool way where you're just kind of playing off like, oh, I didn't have this information, but now that I'm talking to the past me, now I do have this information. It's right there in
Right.
front of me. It's really fun. Just like the one he's just like, well, you need this in order to make it happen. He goes, you have that? No. He goes, wait. And then he just pulls up, he brings up this big object and he's like, okay, I guess you had the entire time. So yeah, that was really fun. A really, really fun scene. And then of course he has this great like little dramatic scene there too at the end when he's about to close the door on Mobius, and of course like right in the nick of time, Loki shoots right through the door and they both make it. So it's yeah, very interested to see what's going to happen more with Obi as the season progresses, and I think he's a really great addition to the show because he fits that weird, funny, intriguing vibe that the show is basically all about. So yeah, I love that character introduction.
Yeah, what works so well about his performance as Obi is that if they inserted another person that was kind of, I guess, drier, it wouldn't be kind of this level of humor, this level of like almost like hopefulness. It like you know what I mean? Like there's just
Yeah,
something there, and it
curiosity.
right.
Yeah,
It's just so well done in even the small like performance that we got so far. I totally agree with you. I think Obi's definitely a great addition, and I
yeah.
think he's going to be like a standout character for this entire season.
It's impossible to time slip inside the TVA. Well, you just saw it. Yeah. That's weird. I did just see it. Yeah, it's so good. I want more of him. More of him.
And your skin will be peeled off. I just like how it got repeated so many times.
Yeah, he really hammered in that point, and Mobius had enough of it.
It was so good. All of this was so good. Like there are so many. Like I said, I just really enjoyed this episode. Like I really hope the rest of the season is on the same level as this because like there are so many things to enjoy from this. And like I said, maybe it's just been because we've been away from these characters like Mobius and Loki for so
2
long.
years.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
and like Obi's obviously fresh, but like I just yeah, I'm really happy with what we got in this first episode and all of the little things and being brought back into this whole world again type of thing of the TVA and of all these characters and yeah, you want to get to some predictions?
Yeah, let's do it.
Awesome. All right, why don't you kick off predictions?
Okay, so getting the obvious out of the way because thanks to the post-credit scene, we get to see Sylvie walking into what looks like an '80s McDonald's essentially, and you know she has this great scene where she's like, "Well, what do I have here? I don't want any rats. I don't want anything like this. I just want anything with a face or anything that's alive." And just go, and then she kind of sees what the environment around there, and she's like, "I want to try everything." She's like, she really likes the world that she like brought herself into. So I'm very excited to get more Sylvie, and of course, and kind of getting more into where her headspace is at after she killed He Who Remains. But there's some other stuff. First of all, like we didn't even talk about like the presence of Kang within the TVA and all of that, and because the very first shot of the episode is the shot of that statue, and of course of Loki running away from that Mobius. So one, we know that there's a point in the TVA where Mobius and B-15 were working there, and they knew that Kang was like the leader of the or He Who Remains was like the leader of the TVA. And then at some point, he like wiped their minds and then kind of covered up the whole aesthetic of the TVA. That great scene in the war room when Loki prunes the wall and the wall is revealed for the old design. So that stuff is all pretty cool. But tying into that, when he's in the past, he does the recording, and there's we get the conversation between him and Ravonna Renslayer, which obviously is the first time we're getting like that first direct connection of those two characters that is best known from the books. But yeah, we haven't seen Ravonna yet, and we also haven't seen Miss Minutes yet because that's also another person character that was mentioned that we didn't really see. So we don't know where exactly those characters are headed. As last time we saw Ravonna was the end of season 1 when she said she was in search of free will, and so I had to assume maybe she's going to discover He Who Remains body at some point, and then she's going to start time hopping to go find Victor Timely and all that. So I think that's where we're going to discover this big overlying storyline with the Victor Timely and He Remains and all that, and how that all is going to tie together in this season. So I'm really excited to see that bigger picture of the story kind of start to come together on that side of it when it comes to those characters.
Yeah, same. And going right off of that, I've actually already heard a theory suggesting maybe the voice that we heard, the Kang voice we heard, might actually be Kang the Conqueror and not He Who
It did
Remains.
reference him in there at one point. I remember that.
Right.
Yeah.
So there might potentially be two different Kang variants on that recording type of thing.
Mhm.
And we may not know which one is which. It may have been that there were three of them in the room together type of thing. And then somehow He Who Remains and Renslayer were able to overpower King the Conqueror type of thing and
Mhm.
send him, into the quantum realm, basically. Like, we could find out that's what happened. That we got King the Conqueror was, banished into the quantum realm. It could have been by those two. It might have not been by the Council of Kangs type of thing.
Right.
We also, the other part of that theory is we don't know if the past, present, and future are all stacked and happening at the same time in the TVA.
Yeah, it's not linear.
Right. We're seeing that in like, that is very well perfectly demonstrated by Loki doing his time
slipping. Yeah.
Yeah. So if that's all happening at the same time, like all of this is happening at the same time, we don't know basically when the Council of Kings stuff was happening as that post-credit scene from Quantumania type of thing.
Right.
We also, and I've said this, and we can go back to the recap video I said for Quantumania. I believe I said it on that video. If I didn't, then you and I were talking about it. We don't know what Kang variant they were talking about. They could have either been talking about the death of King the Conqueror, that we just kind of saw on the screen, or they could have been talking about the death of He Who Remains type of thing.
Right. Yeah. It's open-ended.
Exactly. So I think something is going to show us basically that these two characters have been in play the entire time. Like maybe the TVA was started by, King the Conqueror and He Who Remains. Like maybe they were smart enough to try to work together, and then all while, realizing that eventually only one king can survive. So like there had to be some sort of backstabbing there. Yeah. I'm very curious. Like, I really like that theory, and I've said in tons of videos, I love the theorizing. I love the theories, and all of this, like to kind of read everything I can and kind of listen to other people's ideas and stuff like that. And this one, it really sounds like it could have some, it could have something there, like, because we really don't know. I mean, there's no difference in talking type of thing between those two particular characters. Another thing that theory pointed out was that in the Council of Kangs, the voices did sound, obviously similar because it's the same actor doing all of the voices.
Timekeepers.
But the fact that the pitches are different. Like if you go back to that post-credit scene in Quantumania, the Kang variants that are on screen, their pitches are a little bit different. But
yeah, they all speak in different cadences.
Right. But He Who Remains and King the Conqueror sound very similar. Like similar enough where if you just heard a recording of them.
Yeah. They're the more human ones too, when you look at the other ones as well. Yeah. But also they also sound a little bit like the Timekeepers from season 1, because those are all voiced by Jonathan Majors, and one of them kind of sounded like the Ramatut one, if I remember correctly. So it could have been a weird thing where they were all kind of controlling Timekeepers in their own way. And yeah, the whole mystery around Kang is still being unraveled as we speak, and I think it's starting to get more intriguing since Loki is kind of more of like the center focus of that character.
Yeah, and I mean, I could go like on and on about talking about other theories that I've already started reading, because obviously I've dove right back into this, like liking this first episode right away. I went right to Reddit. I went right to like starting to look at videos and read stuff. But I mean, that is what I really like. That's what I liked about season 1, where Loki and Mobius were basically detectives. They were uncovering the main mystery line of the season, and it looks like we're getting that again. Like we're right back into that. But so not only does they found a way to make it feel familiar, but also make it feel fresh, because this is dealing with something, number one, bigger on a bigger scale, but also it's not exactly the same. They're not tracking Sylvie this entire time. They're not trying to figure out what's behind, the curtain. They've already found out what's behind the curtain. Now they're trying to figure out why and like kind of, what's next.
Yeah.
So it's really it's cool in the sense of being able to do that and to kind of be able to, give me that sense of season 1, but also give me something that I really don't know what's going to happen next. And I really don't know, how this is going to connect with, the variants that we've already seen of Kang, how this is going to shake out at the end. The other thing is, another thing that I've kind of read about is obviously, the people in the TVA, the variants that are running the TVA have been around for a really long time. Time works differently down there or in there type of thing, is what they always say. But they've had their memories wiped and stuff. Just like you were saying originally, like there was a time in the past where Mobius and Hunter knew Kang was behind it. Like whichever variant it is, either Conqueror or He Who Remains, they knew that. That's why the statue was up and no one was freaking out about it and stuff like that. But then at some point they had their memories wiped, and then it was covered up, and it was like told that it was timekeepers and stuff like that. So like this might be like something like the Matrix, where it's just like they get to a certain point and then it all gets erased again and then it starts over type of thing. So like there's a mystery on top of a mystery on top of there's so many things, like layers of this, that we just don't know how long this has been going on. We also don't know if there's just like a certain point where the timeline just always like goes crazy and that whole thing explodes, because they have those blast shields on that observation deck already. Like they wouldn't have put them on there if they hadn't already needed a reason to, type of thing.
Right.
So this has probably already occurred. This might just be a certain, like a fixed thing that always happens. And, eventually it gets to that point and then everything just gets reset. So there's so much to talk about. Like I can't wait for this season. Episode 2 can't come soon enough. I'm just, I'm excited. I'm excited for what's exactly next, but I'm just excited for the arc that we have in this season so much. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Yeah, it's gonna be an awesome ride. I'm here for everything, but as we always say, that's what we think. Let us know in the comments below. What did you think of the premiere episode of season 2 of the Loki series? And what Kang variant was on that recording? Was it He Who Remains? Was it Kang the Conqueror? And who is behind everything now, and what is next? And as always, don't forget, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications to hear about all of our latest audio and video podcast releases. Bye, everybody!
Poppin' Off presents That Recap Show.